Chapter 5. His Path Through the Garden. The mature masculine archetype of the lover moves from an eternal into a finite world through a variety of channels. He has a place in every man's life, and we have all had experience of him. But certain occupations seem particularly likely to draw upon the lover's energies. At the center of the Garden of Delight, the lover is bursting with images, symbols, dreams, and visions, and an ultimate ecstasy beyond words. From the tree of life, he plucks the fruit of generativity and tosses it over the wall of paradise to mortal poets, prophets, mystics, artists, and connoisseurs who eagerly await his gifts. We turn our attention now to these men. To see how they work to embody the lover. From their experiences, we may derive a finer understanding of the archetype's characteristic modes. The lover and the word. The creative word rings out from the gate at the garden wall. The word was first celebrated as a means of cosmogony by the ancient Egyptians, and it was from them that the biblical authors derived semi-magical incantations such as, quote, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light," unquote. The word is the concrescence of the illimitable. It creates form from formlessness. By words, we see and make the world, both our inner worlds and the outer worlds around us. At the garden's gate, the lover meets the magician, who tends the boundaries of the sacred space within the wall. The lover gives the word to the magician, and there, where the energies of the lover and the magician interpenetrate, the mind and heart of the poet burst into visionary flames. He runs from the scene, burdened with the imperative to speak his revelation. "Thus saith the Lord," or "Allah commands," or "Who, if I cried out, would hear me among the angels' hierarchies?" The magician enables limitless libido to take concrete form in the world. Carefully crafting the verbal building blocks of consciousness, the magician enables the unmanifest Brahman to become manifest. He allows the Christ consciousness in all of us, the essence of mind, to incarnate in our finite human neuronal pathways. By restraining the lover's titanic powers, the magician empowers a man such as William Blake to sing of the lamb and the tiger almost in the same breath. From the lover, Shakespeare secures the power to spin words from thin air for weaving his spells of enchantment. Walt Whitman acquires the ability to find the shimmering in the leaves of grass divine. Khalil Gibran gets from the lover the power to penetrate the veil of matter and show the sad beauty beneath the things of this world. Wallace Stevens whirls peacock feathers around the room while palm shadows dance, and Susanna is ravished by the old men. The lover, pushing hard against the boundaries the magician establishes around him, opens a world of insight for the tarot card reader teleports the psychic's inner eye 1,000 miles and shows him impossible visions, and reveals to the prophet hidden sources of corruption and the wellsprings of healing. It is the lover who clutches Muhammad by the throat and commands him, "Recite, recite." The lover rises up in the middle of the night and offers the scientist in his dreaming the last piece of a mental puzzle. He moves the chalk in the mathematician's hand, drawing through him rumors of angels on the blackboard. And it is the lover who lures the physicist toward the dawn of time and space, promising to deliver an elegant theory which will demonstrate, finally, the properties of the Planck era. The musician and the composer hear the voice of the lover singing from another world. It seems so far away, separated by such a high and impenetrable wall, and yet it is closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. Guided by the magician's system of musical notation, the composer translates the lover's song into marks on a piece of paper. By following these marks, instrumental artists recreate something like the original song, so that we too can hear the voice of the lover. The lover in mystic experience. At the garden wall, all words fail, unable to penetrate the scented air, hushed by the sounds of the quiet joy beyond the bonds of the world. The mystics from all religions and from all times and places come here to challenge the gatekeepers, push aside the flaming sword that turns this way and that to keep us out of paradise, and hear the lover's words. Some lose their way and never return to our world. Others stagger from the gate, hair whitened, a faraway look in their eyes. They struggle to speak. They tell us things that are beyond mortal words. They stammer and fall silent. Still others, the writing mystics like Nicholas of Cusa, Meister Eckhart, Saint Bernard, the Sufis, and the authors of the Hindu Upanishads, find words sufficient to at least outline the experience of the garden, so that others can find their way. According to Cusa, paradise beyond the wall is pure unity and is rich simultaneously in diversity. It is the same sacred space as the pure unity of nirvana, the light-filled essence of mind of the Buddhist, the unmanifest Brahman of the Hindus, the pleroma of the Gnostics, and the collective unconscious of the depth psychologists. It is the peace which passes understanding, and understanding's verbal structures. At the same time, the garden is filled with every single differentiated finite being, atoms and molecules, zebras and galaxies. As each thing held in the heart of the lover is called by name, it manifests on this side of the wall, in space and time. For the mystic, adequately accessing the lover, things do not lose their value because they have become material. Nature is all one in time and space, and the creatures of nature are loved for what they are: rock, mineral, pulp, or flesh and blood. The mystic loves both expressions of the lover energy, nature as multiplicity and as unity. Thus, the lover is the source of both spiritual and natural mysticism. He knows the beloved as God and as the world. He loves everyone in particular, both the lion and the lamb, and he loves everything as a whole. The lover is the source of the ecological vision of a green earth. He is the gardener of Eden. In the biblical book of Genesis, Yahweh is the original gardener, but the shadow falls with the coming of consciousness to Adam and Eve. In the New Testament, the garden is restored when Mary, in mystic vision, sees through her tears the risen Christ. She takes him, rightly, for the gardener. Chief Seattle of the Puget Sound Indians, when he was pressured by the white men to sell them a part of what is now the state of Washington, is said to have written a letter to their president. Whether or not this letter is apocryphal, it expresses the lover's understanding of humankind and the world of nature. Quote, "How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every clearing and humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. The sap which courses through the trees carries the memories of the red man. We are a part of the earth and it is a part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The deer, the horse, the gray eagle, these are our brothers. The rocky crest, the juices in the meadows, the body of heat of the pony and the man, all belong to the same family. The earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself." Unquote. These are things that poets, prophets, and seers continually rediscover. The New Age movement today is alive with lover energy, generating a new hunger for both his spiritual and natural ways. Concern for the health of the environment is united with a renewed sense of the sanctity of the created world. At the same time, New Age religions encourage their followers to delve more deeply into their inner worlds. From Greenpeace to analytical psychology, from the new cosmology to creation spirituality, the lover's many aspects are revealed once again to contain both diversity and unity, body and soul. The lover and the artist. The forms and colors by which the visual artist renders concrete the ineffable are pre-verbal. This may place the visual artist in closer proximity to the archetype of the lover than the users of language, poets, prophets, mathematicians, composers, and philosophers. At the very least, the visual artist, like these others, has a struggle on his hands as he labors to embody in playful yet disciplined processes the infinite in finite productions. The visual artist, appropriately accessing the lover, becomes a conduit for the incarnation of wordless wonder, the terror and beauty of a superabundance of libido, which seeks to pour into this world through form and color. The cultural and creative achievements of the artist make us human. They make life in the world worth living. The artist personifies open-ended and continuous transformation, and offers to his fellow creatures that same transformational possibility. In psychological development, transformation of the individual is guided by archetypal structures and dynamics. The universal drive of the species toward transformation, toward both greater diversity and greater unity, expresses itself in the paths of individuals, and none more so than the individual artist. Jung pointed out that neuroses and complexes attack and wound the ego along its path to transformation. These partial personalities are emissaries of the self, which will not tolerate any one-sided or exaggerated attitudes on the part of the ego, and will not abide either psychological splitting or moralistic rigidity. What is true for the individual psyche is also true for the collective psyche, as it is expressed through culture. As Erich Neumann writes in Art and the Creative Unconscious, whenever a complex of the personal unconscious leads to achievement instead of neurosis, or we would argue through neurosis to achievement, the individual becomes, in the broadest sense, an artist. He becomes creative. The original feeling of inferiority or worthlessness and the resulting compensatory will to power which cuts through it are not arrested in pathological fantasies. Instead, they go on to incarnate something of collective significance. The neurotic fantasies that complexes generate, while they may be as one-sided and as extreme as the attitudes and values of the ego, are always ultimately in the service of a self which aims at greater psychological wholeness. And if these fantasies are given form by the artist, then they could open the artist's personality, and through him, the collective psyche, to creative advance. If the artist can allow himself to temper his visions with the reality principle, his fantasies result in cultural and artistic achievements. These achievements break past the repression barrier erected by the superego. The artist, who is continuously open to the liquefying effects of the libido, hurls himself through his works against the rigidity of established structures. Cultural rigidity manifests in many forms: in artistic canons, inhuman laws, religious and political dogmatisms, closed economic systems, repressive codes of ethics, and in ecological exploitation. The artist, in his structured challenging role, exemplifies the outlaw lover in action. The lover manifests himself to the artist ideally, not as an eruptive possession of his ego, but as a generative power that relates the ego consciousness to the self, what Edward Edinger calls an ego-self axis, in which consciousness and the powers of the unconscious mingle freely. The ego, stewarded by the structuring, striving, and containing archetypes of the king, the warrior, and the magician accesses the libidinal energy of the lover. This generative connection between ego structure and the boundary defying lover becomes, in Buber's terms, an I-thou relationship, in which the ego's I meets in mutual celebration the lover's, ultimately the self's, thou. Artistic productions are always the result of this inner I-thou relationship. Neumann believes that the world the artist images as a result of this I-thou relationship is the world of the child. It is the world of the primordial one reality, not yet split by consciousness. It is the garden beyond the wall. Great works of art grow transparent to this underlying unitary reality. They reveal the isness, as Meister Eckhart called it, behind the becoming of finite entities in space and time. They reveal the isness behind the becoming of finite entities in space and time. At the same time, great works of art also revel in the process of becoming what all things already are on the other side of the garden wall. Artists are often perceived to be childlike. Some seem even childish. For example, Salieri's view of Mozart in Amadeus typifies the impression Westerners often have of their artist. For the artist, regression to a childlike state of deep communion with the realm of the archetypes, in which everything is filled with cosmic import and power, is in the service of a progression toward cultural and artistic achievement. Through his creations, the artist unifies the archaic level of the instincts with the spiritual level of ideals. This is a mighty achievement indeed, especially in light of the profound alienation our modern schizoid culture suffers from our instinctual roots. It is this imaging of human wholeness, of the lost paradise of childhood, that gives art its captivating power. The symbols that the artist expresses on canvas, in wood or stone, or in any other medium, reflect dimensions of meaning and realms of feeling that transcend analytic thought. Perhaps surprisingly, psychoanalysis has tended to deprive the artist's creativity from either his excess of libido or his lack of adequate ego structures. Again, perhaps surprisingly, psychoanalysis has tended to derive the artist's creativity from either his excess of libido or his lack of adequate ego structures. It is true that the developmental history of the artistic child is problematic, but Jungians take a more positive view of the budding artist's developmental issues than do most Freudians. For Jungians, in the wound is the opportunity. As Neumann points out, the creative child remains in touch with the childhood world of archetypal realities, while other children gradually become socialized into the real world. Most children learn the importance of relinquishing toyland and accepting the do's and don'ts of the social world. They succumb to the pressures of the superego and adopt the adult experience of reality, wherein a myriad of finite entities compete with each other for finite rewards. The majority of children, in other words, repress the pleasure principle and adopt the labor-intensive reality principle. They learn that trees are not magic, that there is no Santa Claus, and that such things as truth and beauty are only marginally significant. The potential artist, however, retains his sense of the magic that animates the things of this world. He knows that the world is alive, not an empty mechanism. He will not give up the primordial sense of vividness and wholeness with which he came into this world. He recognizes his personal wholeness, in which no part of his body or of his psyche is shamed and repressed, as well as the wholeness and interconnectedness of all things. His inability or unwillingness to give up his original unitary worldview drives his parents to distraction. They and the society which supports their own fragmented personalities, in which instinct and feeling are split off from ego and mind, condemn the artistic child as a dreamer. In his teenage years, he becomes a bum, a hippie, a good-for-nothing. Yet he remains loyal to his original image of wholeness. He continues to believe that there is harmony behind the apparent competition. If he can work through the neuroses that the enormous pressures to split foist upon him, the artist, as a man, will be able to show to himself and to the society that has attacked him the magical power of the one in the many. Neumann follows the traditions of Western culture in terming the archetypal world of the collective unconscious the realm of the mothers, and the world of ego-conscious reality the realm of the fathers. He believes that the mother with whom the artist is so stubbornly bonded is the archetypal mother, and not simply his mortal mother. Neumann claims that the explanation for the artist's unusual creativity lies in his intense interaction with his own inner feminine, his anima, a part of which he experiences as his mother. The problem raised by Neumann's characterization of the artist's bond with the mother is a problem we addressed before. Is the lover essentially feminine or masculine? On the island of Bali, people regard the origin of the artist's creativity in quite a different light. Male mask makers and dancers, for example, ascribe their creative powers to their fathers rather than to their mothers. On Bali, artistic expression is not linked to the concept of femininity any more than it is linked to presumed masculine traits. In Freudian terms, the artist may be less repressed than other personality types. In Jungian terms, the artist may be living out a more fully developed ego-self axis than are the majority of his peers. In any case, whether the other within is thought of as mother, as father, as the personal and the collective unconscious, as the divine child, the anima, or the self, or as aspects of all of the above, the artist is drawn by the terrifying and enchanting power of the lover into an incarnational process through suffering, self-sacrifice, and transports of ecstasy. This process leads a fragmented psyche back to the garden and empowers others who have eyes to see and ears to hear to follow in the quest for wholeness. Contemporary art as embodiment of the lover. Many of the works of pre-modern art clearly reveal the life force of the lover. The gaily colored tomb paintings of ancient Egypt are electric and lively. The sensuous, undulating phallic art of the Mayas, the frankly erotic stonework of the great Hindu temple at Konarak, the seductively smiling colossi of Angkor Wat. These and many other works of ancient artists reveal the presence of the lover in all his amorous creative power. Botticelli's The Birth of Venus astounds us by the sheer force of its lover-inspired beauty. A powerful combination of sensuously archaic and spiritualized, idealistic aspects of Eros. Even Rembrandt's somber studies in light and shadow display a passionate, if dark, love for the human soul. The joyful exuberance of the Impressionist, the nostalgic enchantment of Maxfield Parrish's storybook illustrations, the captivating nudes of Gauguin, we feel the lover, like the grace of God, in all of these. But can we see the contemporary art as an expression of the lover? Anila Jaffe, one of Jung's early disciples, brilliantly and comprehensively analyzes the work of modern artists from a depth psychologist's perspective in her essay, Symbolism in the Visual Arts. We will be guided by her remarks in our brief discussion of the lover and the modern artist. Modern art is often characterized as imaginative, as abstract, or as non-figurative. Modern artists do not tend to reproduce objects in the natural world in a realistic way. When they do so in unconventional ways. Art that uses found objects, for instance, places those objects in unnatural surroundings. The surrealists use recognizable representations of objects, but bend and twist them to make symbolic statements. The artist is a spokesperson for his age. Modern artists of significance plumb the depths of the collective unconscious in order to give expression to an inner vision of the human soul and to the spiritual background of life and the world. This is why the forms and colors they use often do not realistically reflect the things of this world. The modern artist is striving to picture for us a hidden reality behind the reality we take for granted. The outer colors and forms are means to an inner transformational end. Paul Klee said that an object in art awakens our love just because it seems to be the bearer of powers that are greater than itself. Modern artists, like the mystics, seem to believe in a spirit in matter, which matter partly reveals and partly obscures. Giorgio de Chirico, the founder of the Pittura Metaphysica school of Italian art, wrote that every object has two aspects: the common aspect, which is the one we generally see and which is seen by everyone, and the ghostly and metaphysical aspect, which only rare individuals see at moments of clairvoyance and metaphysical meditation. A work of art must relate something that does not appear in its visible form. Unquote. Franz Marc wrote in a similar vein that the goal of art now must be to reveal unearthly life dwelling behind everything. to break the mirror of life, so that we may look being in the face. To reveal unearthly life dwelling behind everything, to break the mirror of life, so that we may look being in the face. Such statements by modernists manifest a profoundly spiritual motive in their work. But clearly they also reveal a danger. While St. Paul may long for that time when he can turn from the mirror in which he sees darkly and behold the divine face to face, religious traditions and depth psychology alike warn of the danger to the ego of coming fully into the divine presence. Ego structures can be annihilated by the sheer unrestrained force of archetypal energies. Semele was instantly consumed by fire when she beheld the face of Zeus, and the ancient Hebrews knew that no man could see the face of God and live. The danger of getting too close to the dark fire of the unconscious is graphically portrayed by many works of modern art. From De Chirico's faceless and therefore unconscious representations of the human figure to Dali's The Burning Draft, Giacometti's elongated stick figures seem to have been charred in a nuclear fire, and Jackson Pollock's chaotic paintings are as unsettling as a madman's ravings. Many works of modern art seem to loom above us in our galleries, haunting us with our own unspoken and nightmarish fears. There is little doubt that the artists who create these images are giving form to the dark anxieties of our modern world. They are showing us just how alienated we are from our instinctual roots, and how dangerous to our continued survival the products of our scientific unconsciousness are. We catch a glimpse in their work of a vengeful collective unconscious, compensating for the arrogance of the rational ego. Repressed, the lover becomes dark, orgiastic, and annihilating. When we try to bind him, Dionysus hurls us back into the infinite sea of the unconscious, from which there may be no return. With his insistence on the interconnection of all things, with his demand that we recognize the value of all things, the lover will consent to be guided by reasonable structures, but he will not accept being split off and repressed. Modern artists receive projections of disowned lover energy from the rest of society. This may put the artist in a vulnerable and masochistic position, which he may not be aware he is maintaining. People often maintain friendships with artists in order to avoid the responsibility of carrying and channeling creative and prophetic energy themselves. Depth psychology has demonstrated that what is repressed will return, and that it will rarely return in a pleasant form. A dark and chthonic Eros, split off and repressed by a society of workaholics, has returned to our broken world with a vengeance. The stockpiles of nuclear weapons and the effects of massive pollution are testimony to the rage of denied Eros, as surely as the products of the many modern artists who seem to be possessed by the lover's dark side. Marc Chagall descended into his own inner darkness and explored there the nightmares of the repressed lover. Still, he expresses warmth and hope in his paintings and shows us over and over again the image of man and woman embracing in the garden. He wrote, Everything may change in our demoralized world except the heart, man's love, in his striving to know the divine. Jackson Pollock, who was killed in a car accident at the age of 44, said that he painted in a kind of trance, completely unaware of what he was doing. His paintings, though charged with colors like a glowing lava stream, illustrate a despair of consciousness and a nearly total possession by the incalculable power of unconscious libido. Jaffe writes that Pollock's paintings seem to live in a time before the emergence of consciousness and being, or to be fantastic landscapes of a time after the extinction of consciousness and being. However brilliant they may be, Pollock's paintings bode the same ill for the collective psyche as they did for his personal life. Strangely and wonderfully, just at the point at which consciousness and structure seem to disappear into the darkness of the body and the death instinct, light appears, and the lover's life instinct reasserts itself. Uncannily, Pollock's canvases resemble nothing so much as the microphotographic images of the once hidden structures of organic and inorganic matter. At the bottom of the well of chaos there lies a realm of primordial organization. A safety net appears beneath our feet. The lover reveals himself once again in a joyous riot of form and color in the microscopic world underlying the larger world in which we live. Purposefulness and orderliness lie hidden in the deep realm from which body and soul arise from each other and follow their differing paths. The lover and appreciative consciousness. Most of us are probably not artists in the narrow sense of the term, nor are we mystics. But we are all participants in appreciative consciousness. We are all, in some area and to some extent, connoisseurs. To the extent that we can genuinely appreciate the beauty and pleasure of anything, we are in touch with the lover, following one of the paths in his garden. There are many paths to the self at the center of the primordially whole psyche. Hindus are encouraged early in life to choose a particular god out of the vast pantheon of gods and goddesses available to them. Once he has chosen a patron saint, a Hindu will follow that one deity and the lifestyle he or she prescribes to the end of his life. There, the one God who is the goal of all the gods and goddesses and of all created things stands revealed. Hindus are sensuously involved with their gods. Flowers, ornaments, incense, oils, and brightly colored offerings are all part of the Hindu approach to divinity. While God, the Self, transcends the world of the senses, the deity also delights in the dance of Maya, the material world. As Hinduism teaches, we are all Brahman, playing at being ourselves. Our task is to follow the clues he has left us in the world of the senses in order to remember who and what we really are. Thus, whatever path we follow, we will all ultimately arrive at the same sacred space. In the depths of the psyche, according to Jungians, all the archetypes, immature and mature, masculine and feminine, embrace in amorous harmony. It is a harmony that is vivid, dynamic, calm, and joyful. As the archetype of sensuality, the lover encourages human beings to take the paths of physical and psychological pleasure. He encourages us to delight in the things of this world and to enjoy our libido, eros, agape, and amor. He inspires the connoisseur who relishes the things that stimulate the senses. The lover urges us to taste, touch, smell, hear, and behold the beautiful, the pungent, the mellifluous, and the serene. Fine wines, vintage cars, Cuban cigars, exotic foods, silk shirts, even feeling-toned ideas. The lover inspires our cherishing of these wonders of the sensual world. He spurs on collectors, those men who find pleasure in gathering stamps, coins, memorabilia, antiques, baseball cards, finely crafted weapons, books, even pornographic magazines. These and many other objects and images serve as icons of the self, as colorful and fragmentary reminders of a once and future wholeness. Buffs and enthusiasts draw their sense of fascination for the objects and activities of their enthusiasms from the lover. Favorite sports and pastimes, hobbies, research into historical epochs, all these activities reveal the lover within. Fans of certain kinds of music and musical groups, of political candidates, of particular ethnic and cultural traditions, of TV series, are all following different paths the lover has laid into the garden of delight. If connoisseurs, collectors, enthusiasts, and fans could become aware of the unconscious intent of their fascinations, they would be able to draw closer to the source of these enthusiasms. They could more intentionally embrace the lover within. In this way, they could initiate a conscious program whose aim would be to make them more whole. Like the Hindus, who select one god and follow him or her to the font of life, these men could discover that paradise is located within their own bodies, minds, and souls. The lover in relationship. In the magic of fully engaged lovemaking, a man and his partner simultaneously affirm their separate identities and lose their individuality to a wider, deeper, and higher dimension. The act carries them, however briefly, into the mystery of the origins of all things. Procreation is among the aims of lovemaking, though it is certainly not the only aim. But it seems as if we have to touch the mysterious substrate from which all things arise, and into which, as Jaffe says, consciousness and being subside, in order to evoke a new finite entity, the child that can issue from our union. Again, but it seems as if we have to touch the mysterious substrate from which all things arise, and into which consciousness and being subside in order to evoke a new finite entity, the child that can issue from our union. For the king, lovemaking aims primarily at procreation. Its purpose is to provide an heir and ensure the fertility of the kingdom. Lovemaking for the warrior manifests as erotic conquest and as release from the tensions of combat. The ascetic magician's lovemaking is nearly totally inner-directed, though he may know agape love for others. The lover, as he filters through these other archetypal configurations, inspires them all. But lovemaking for the lover himself, while it can involve spiritualized eros and agape, always also involves an amorous physical union between human beings. The most integrated form of love comes from the mature and fully expressed lover. A man adequately and appropriately accessing the lover within cannot experience his lovemaking in fragmentary form. He cannot limit it to a meeting of minds, as in platonic love, nor to a meeting of hearts, as in agapetic love. Nor can he restrict his lovemaking to a simple meeting of bodies. His lovemaking encompasses all forms of love. He will not be blocked in his amorous behaviors by a mother complex, nor will he sublimate his eros in response, perhaps to a castrating woman. Rather, he will know and live the passion of the ancient Canaanite god, Baal, for his bride, Anath. He will understand the Hindu Kama Sutra with the wisdom of instinct. He will feel the radiance and the pangs of Amor, just as the ancient Hebrew author of the Song of Songs knew them. The lover and promiscuity. The lover, left to his own devices, may inspire a man to be monogamous, serially monogamous, polygamous, or promiscuous. What determines the mode of a man's loving involves the ways in which he was wounded and affirmed as a boy. His resulting quest for a sense of wholeness in his masculine identity, and the degree to which he is possessed by the other major archetypes. From the standpoint of the lover, no one mode is morally superior to another. Monogamy remains the ideal in Western civilization, reflecting our societal interest in a stable I-thou amorous relationship. But it is often observed that many monogamous relationships are neither meaningful nor fulfilling. People may remain married and faithful to one another, but this by no means indicates that they are accessing the lover adequately. While it is true that the lover can incarnate in lifelong exclusive marriages, he does so in almost every case quite incompletely. Furthermore, he can incarnate as well in serially monogamous or multiple partner settings. We need to keep in mind that the lover's aim is amoral in a culturally bound ethical sense. His aim is pleasure, and ultimately ecstatic union with the all. It is important not to dismiss serial monogamy as merely an indication of a superficial and wandering psyche. Serial monogamy, like monogamy, polygamy, and promiscuity, can indeed be a dead-end process, but it can equally reflect a process of personal transformation in a man's psyche, especially concerning his experiences with others. A process of personal transformation often involves the consolidation both of a man's masculine identity and of his anima. Because all unconscious psychic material is projected onto people in the outer world, a man's unconsolidated, many-faceted anima may appear irresistibly in a number of women, one at a time, or in several at once. If the very foundation of the lover's amorality is to drive the psyche toward a complex unity, if the very foundation of the lover's amorality is to drive the psyche toward a complex unity, then a series of intimate relationships, or several at the same time, may serve the lover well. However, if a man's masculine identity is consolidated and is an intimate, safe, and creative relationship with his anima, the likelihood may increase that he will prefer to maintain an exclusive, monogamous relationship with one woman, at least for an extended period of time. Such a relationship will cost him dearly if it is dictated by societal norms and is not an authentic expression of a man's actual psychological condition. It will exaggerate the divisions that already exist within his psyche, and it will rigidify the repression barrier that attempts either to banish the lover or to bind him in overly narrow constraints. Such a man can easily become possessed by the bipolar shadow of the lover. Yet it remains true that a man may experience psychological growth in the context of a monogamous relationship. Harville Hendrix writes in Getting the Love You Want that not only is this possible, but very likely it is the reason we fall in love in the first place. Hendrix believes that we fall in love with those who are, or seem to be, nearly identical matches for the imago, especially in its negative characteristics, that the inner child carries. According to Hendrix, the task of monogamous marriage becomes getting the partner to grow in exactly the ways in which we wished our parents had grown in order to give us the love we wanted as children. We in turn must grow in order to give our partner the love she or he wanted in her or his childhood. If the imago is matched closely enough on both sides, we each will be asked to grow in those very areas in which we were most damaged. We will heal ourselves as well as our partner in the process. Monogamous relationship is for Hendrix the primary setting by which the lover can heal us and make us whole. Once a man works through a neurosis or a complex that a particular relationship has helped to constellate, the relationship may come to lose its hold on him. If a process of mutual healing has not taken place in the relationship, the man may find his transference issues with respect to his partner resolved, but discover that she or he has been unable to keep up with the pace of his own transformation. Or he may find that she or he has grown too in a way that dictates their parting. He may establish a pattern of serial monogamy as a result. the lover within moves him out of this relationship. He may then move on into another monogamous relationship, and so on, until his various issues are resolved well enough for the consolidations mentioned above to occur. Polygamy is officially allowed in most of the world's cultures, probably for reasons that have to do with the unconscious recognition of differing male and female reproductive strategies. While underlying biological forces are almost certainly at work in polygamous and other multiple female single male systems, both official and otherwise, it is possible that to some extent at least these arrangements also reflect the very real difficulty most men have in realizing an integrated experience of their animas. Often, when a man is acting out promiscuously or having affairs, it reflects an unconsolidated anima, and, in extreme cases, chaos in the masculine self. Unconscious inflation and hidden grandiosity may play a role in any of the modes of loving. It is too simplistic to say that monogamy, for instance, is inherently a less inflated behavioral pattern than is promiscuity. A man may be possessed by a sense of his omnipotence, moral or otherwise, in a monogamous relationship that chronically violates his authentic experience of a cohesive self, but that he believes he can maintain no matter what the cost to his own psychic integrity. Equally, he may be carried away by an inaccurate evaluation of his potency, or the lack of it, and act out his underlying anxiety in serially monogamous or in promiscuous behavior. In our society, one person within a couple will usually be unconsciously assigned the lover energy for the couple. Both parties ought to share this responsibility for stewarding the garden, but usually one party or another carries the burden, just as artistic friends carry other aspects of the energy. One of the first things that happens in a good course of marital therapy is that both partners begin consciously to reclaim their rejected and projected lovers. Midlife crises occur when one partner or another reclaims the lover energy unconsciously, often outside the context of the primary relationship. This can be constructive for the individual if he or she becomes conscious of what is happening, although it may be harmful to the relationship. The unconscious return of repressed lover energy is more likely to be destructive the more deeply repressed it has been in the past. The energy comes back with a vengeance, often in forms almost unrecognizable as lover energy. Eating disorders and addictions, for example, almost always signal the presence of lover energy that has not been integrated into the personality. But before we turn to these shadow aspects, let us examine what the lover looks like when fully expressed.